Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mack's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamack.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Carma Essence, and she is Spence, sorry. She helps entrepreneurs and small business owners. Sorry about that. Business owners write, publish, and market their books based on the knowledge between their ears, even if they've never written before and are crazy busy. Well, it looks like I should have found you a long time ago. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, and I'd like to start off each show. This show is about based on my latest best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this year we've had every situation show up globally for us. So I'd like to start out with maybe a story you have about a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough spot and how you got back on track.
Well, it's could be a long story, but I'll try to be succinct. In 1997, I got pregnant, got married, and to the wrong man. And after about 3 years of marriage, I was thinking, maybe I should get a divorce. But I gave it another 10 years, just in case. You don't want to rush into things. And it was hell. It really was. He was emotionally abusive. He told me all my templates were wrong. And I have ADD, so I can be impulsive. And when he was talking, I had to stay very still and not say a word. I couldn't even do, those listening things they tell us where you go, I couldn't do that. It would throw him off. So the problem with the way I am is that I need to be moving if I'm paying attention. So I need to tap my feet or move my hands or something like that. And he'd make me move. So I had to concentrate on holding still, which meant I wasn't listening to him. So it was a constant struggle. And there were other things. So finally, in 2010, I asked him for a divorce. And I got a divorce. And I moved. We were living in Arizona at the time, and I moved to LA. And you had to stay 6 months and then you file for divorce. And so blah, blah. A year later, I'm dating again. And after a few months, I met this very charismatic fellow. He did spear fishing and the diving where you don't need the tanks. You just breathe, you hold your breath. And he sort of just moved into my apartment, which was barely enough room for one person. And one night, he turned out he was alcoholic. And one night, he completely flipped out because Obama was the president at the time. And I said, well, I like Obama. And he flipped out, told me I was a traitor to the country, and just a spew of things. He went out, left. I'm like, okay, that was weird. And then I went to bed. He came home and took a bottle of water and doused it over me while I was in the bed. He shook me. He pushed me up against a wall. He again threatened my life, said I should be lined up against a wall and shot because I liked Obama. I find that very odd to, you support the current president and that's a bad thing. And by the end of the night, he took my phone away. I couldn't even get my phone. So I waited until he passed out. And while I was waiting, he called his brother in Alabama and was laughing at how he had waterboarded his girlfriend.
Wow.
So that morning, I got dressed very quickly. I grabbed my computer and I fled. And it was my apartment. I was paying the rent. And I went to a friend's house. She had to go to work, so she let me stay at her house for a while. But after a while, I realized I was hungry, so I went to McDonald's and I ended up talking to another friend on my computer. And they said, you should call the police. And I'm like, well, I don't know. But they convinced me. So I borrowed a phone because, of course, I never did find my phone. I borrowed a phone from one of the people who worked at McDonald's and called the police. And the short story of that is he ended up going to prison. And it turned out that he had fractured my orbital while doing all the crazy things because, like, the bone underneath the eye that holds it up, he fractured it. So I had to go through a bit of health care to get that normal. But after that experience, I realized there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
I'm going out with increasingly abusive men. And if I don't get my act together, the next one will kill me. So I took a year off men. I went on a man diet. And I dove into learning about universal laws, mindset, and the rules of dating, how to find a man who isn't crazy pants. And what I learned from that is obviously what you think about expands. So as I learned that I had been thinking that I wasn't worthy of a man who could treat me well. I also learned that I need to be myself and that would attract the right man. So in walks my current husband a year later. And on our first date, I was full on Carma. I threw at him every idiosyncrasy and quirkiness about him. On a normal date, the man would have run screaming, but he didn't. In fact, he thought it was exciting. And fast forward, we're married and he is amazing. And it was all because I was myself.
Yes.
And I can't imagine someone more well-matched than he is. We are peas in a pod.
Oh, I love that. That's great. How beautiful. And, that journey is something that a lot of people have been on, and myself included. And
yay.
It's one of those learning experiences. One of the things that I got out of my journey was that you're attracted to and attract what you know as love. And I came from a very abusive childhood. And so I brought that and was attracted to somebody that at first seemed very nice, reading poetry.
There we do.
Yeah, and all that. And then all of a sudden, abusive and over controlling and just ridiculous, stealing, just crazy stuff. And I was actually forced into a marriage with my parents and grandparents because I got pregnant, and it was back in the old school mindset. And if you don't, you're in trouble. And I got sick, so I had no choice because I lost my income. And so it was one of those situations. And maybe it was my karma. Your name is Carma.
Yeah.
But it was a life lesson. And the thing that happens is, as you learn that, you took that year of self-love where you're like, you know what, I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to self-love. I'm going to take care of myself and be who I am. And then you attract and are attracted to healthy love and what's
Exactly.
to who you really are. And that makes all the difference. And it definitely has made a difference in my life. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that. I don't even have those type of friends that are unhealthy or any, it's changed everything that I do. And my peer group is incredible. And it's because of that time of self-love. And in that time, there's that lonely space. And that's the space that's kind of scary. That's the time where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm all alone. Should I be all alone? Am I always going to be all alone? Maybe I go back to these terrible people, but it's like, no, because you're being yourself and you're healing. And then you start to attract the right people. So what a beautiful story.
Well, that's how I got in trouble in the first place, because I was like 31 and I'm like, I'm never going to find a man. So I find this man and I marry him. And it was the wrong man. It wasn't until I got to the point where I believed I don't need a man. I want one. I just don't need one, that I finally found the right man.
Yes. And I think that's another thing. I know a lot of people that maybe they've just left a relationship and they want to go find somebody because they need either a man or a woman, whoever they're looking for in their life. And so they're looking for this other person to complete them, to make them whole. And it's that time you need to make yourself whole and know that when you're going into a relationship, you're going to give and receive, not just to receive. And that's a big difference. And it's something where you complement each other, you have fun, and it's something that, of course, there's give and take in every relationship. There's that, but it's because you want to be there. It's not because you need that other person to make you happy. Imagine who was going to be attracted to somebody that needs to make the other person happy all the time. That is just not going to work out. and a lot of times
there are people like that, but they're not good people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that thing about you won't be, I've had friends that say, oh, honey, you won't be happy unless you're in a relationship. And I thought, well, wait a minute. When I first got divorced and all that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm happy right now. And I'm not going to depend on that other person, place or thing to make me happy. I'm going to be happy. That attracted so many people because I'm happy in who I am and what I'm doing and who I'm being. And, of course, we're always improving, but it's that choice. And that's attractive.
Exactly.
Yes. Versus a needy person that needs you to give them happiness every second. So,
and no one can make you happy. Happy comes from inside.
Yes.
It's a choice.
It is. And that doesn't mean you're always happy. It means that even in time you get to choose. There are sad situations this year, like we discussed. There's so many tough situations that we've all had to face. And then it's a choice of how we're going to get through them. And that means you're going to embrace all your emotions. You're going to get through all those pieces, but you're going to choose to get to the other side and choose happiness in the little things and find the good in what we're dealing with. For my family and myself, we lost my youngest son in December last year. He was 22 and he had Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is a heart condition since 5th grade. We found it. They did ablation. They did everything. He went to sleep at grandma's house for holidays and didn't wake up. And so yeah, and that was, wow, we thought, oh my gosh. And then by the time we had the funeral, it was January, and because it was so close to Christmas. And by the time we were getting back to our kind of semi-normal sort of waking up, the pandemic hit.
Lockdown hit. Yeah.
And my daughter said, oh, Mom, this is exactly, this universal pause is exactly what our family needed. We needed this more than ever. If ever there was a year, we needed this time. It was this year. And so it was like we learned to honor this year and respect it and
Yeah.
be thankful for that time. So it made a big difference for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The pandemic's been interesting. I moved
It-
across country in the middle of it.
That's incredible. Yes. And so you two lovebirds got to move. How
Yeah.
beautiful. I love your love story. That's incredible. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah. You should hear how he proposed. That's a real love story.
I love that. That's so great. So that's something that I learned. You know, you see when you've experienced an abusive situation, you think, oh gosh, all guys or all women or all people are abusive, whatever. And that's not the truth. That's
Yeah.
all the people you might be surrounding yourself with. That's
I
all.
absolutely refused to believe that. I was
Yes.
not going to believe that. I mean, that may have been my experience, but I knew there were good people out there.
And then if you're listening and you're a guy and you're listening in, oh, wow, listen to that one part of your story where you were testing your new guy and you
Yeah.
test. Now think about that. A lot of times that will show up, especially getting closer to a commitment when somebody's had a tough situation and been through something where they're going to give you some tests, and maybe they're not even aware that they're giving you a test, but it's like, let's see who you really are before I get to a committed situation with you. And so if you have someone and you're in a dating situation or whatever, and you're getting tested, guys, being present no matter what is going to make all the difference. And that goes for parents too, any relationship. When you're staying strong and being present. Right now, we've got kids home from college, and they need strong parents to be present for them through this crazy time, because they're going to be emotional. I mean, I can't imagine being a young adult stuck at home for as many, and now we're going back to lockdowns in California, many other states are going back to close to lockdowns or stay-at-home orders, whatever you want to call it. So we really be present for our loved ones, because that's just showing that love is still there. It's solid even when they're having a tough moment. So now I'd love to hear, Carma, about your talking about stories, how you're helping other people to share their stories, write their stories, and get their message out and published and everything. How are you doing that?
Well, there's a variety of ways that I do that. In the writing, so I sort of silo it into, like, there's writing, there's publishing, there's marketing. So the writing part is I help people get that idea, that concept clear, and then out onto like an outline. So I work with them to create this outline that basically, once that outline's done, the book practically writes itself. I have a mentor who loves to say, an outline well written is a book half done.
Yeah.
And it is so true. I mean, it's even true with the articles I write on my blog. I outline first, and then whoosh, it writes itself. Well, almost. So that's the writing portion. With the publishing portion, there are so many options to publish a book. And I sort of guide them in making the right choice for them, which goes again back to, before the outline's written, we get very clear on what their vision is. What do they see their life being? What do they want this book to help them accomplish? And that helps them with all the decisions going down the line from there. So if they want to go to a traditional publisher, I can't really help them. I can give them some guidance on writing a proposal, but that's not my strength. I'm more of a self-publisher. And so I can help them decide, do they want to do ebook only? Do they want to do ebook, hardbook, paperback? Do they want to just, all the different combinations? Because you've got ebooks, you've got paperbacks, hardbacks, and you've got audiobooks. And there are ways to do all of them on your own, self-published. And you can also do them in a sequence. You can do them all at the same time. It's like, what works for them? What will help them accomplish the goals they want? And then there's the marketing, and that's the fun part for me. I love marketing. That's not always a fun part for the author. So I'm pulling together something that I think will really help my clients coming in the new year. And it's called the Book Marketing Club. And what I plan to do is every month dive deep into one technique, so that after the people who come into this club go with me for that month, they are like near experts on that technique. And every month we'll do a new technique. And there's more than 12 techniques. So, hopefully people will stay longer than a year. But either way, and as when we go to repeating, everything changes. So there'll be updated information. So like there was information that worked in January.
Right.
That stopped working in June. So yeah, you kind of have to pivot and figure out what's working. And so I'm constantly experimenting only with my own books. I've got a book launch coming out in May, and I'm throwing every marketing technique at it, which is going to be interesting because I also am working full time. So, but that's great too, because one of the things I've always wanted to do is show people how to create a side hustle that it takes over their income. So now I have to do it myself. Yay. So that's how I help people. It's like I help them get the biggest things I do. I mean, yes, I help them do with the techniques, but the biggest key things I do is help them make the right decisions based on what is a clear vision. And I help them fight the mind goblins that come along, because they will come along.
Oh, yeah.
Authors, everyone has mind goblins. Authors really have mind goblins.
Yes, it's so true. I mean, I had some writer's block happen a couple times that I felt very guided with my book. And there were a couple chapters that I got stuck, and it was I was stuck on the career chapter, and I was in a hotel in Vegas, and I was literally in the hotel room having room service, and I hadn't left the room for almost a month. And then I got to this chapter, and it was like, what in the heck? I can't. There's something that needs to go here, and I can't figure it out. And I didn't want to waste money on going to eat out, because I'm all alone. I mean, it's different eating out alone. It's kind of like not the same. And so
No.
fine. And I bought, like, I had the mini fridge and the microwave, so I'd buy like things and have little meals, and then have light meals in the room, nothing fancy. And so I went to the fanciest restaurant in the hotel, and I ran into a lady there, that the lady that was serving, the serving lady, and she was a grandma, and she told me her story, because I'm writing this book, and I'm frustrated. I can't figure careers. And we started talking, and she was sharing about her frustration, and she told me she got pregnant really young. You and I both had our kids young. And so here's the situation. She said she never graduated high school, and she didn't know if she was going to be able to ever go to college, because she never graduated high school. And she's in the chapter in the book, and I got her permission. And I said, wow, okay. Well, I used to work at a college years ago. Let me show you what you get to do, and I'll explain how you can get financial aid, and how you can go in, and how you can, pass the test to get in. You don't need you can CLEP in. At this point, you don't have to worry about it. You're just, and she didn't know that. So all these years, she didn't know. She has raised all these amazing kids of her own, and they're all working and doing well. They've all graduated college, and she says, that's the one thing I want to do. And she was going to be able to do it. She's in a relationship that she would be able to go to college. And so she literally signed up to college the next day, and she still stays in touch. She's almost done with her program. And so she was
awesome.
Yeah. And so sometimes you need to get out, and idea will show, or I felt guided. That was a guided thing. How many people out there needed to hear that no matter your age, she's a grandma. It didn't matter. And she's creating a whole new career in life for herself. And she's never been happier. So there's no age limit on finally going and choosing the career that you really want. So that was my writer's block. That was such an amazing, it was like magical. I was like, I cannot believe this. I was alone. There was nobody there. I was like, is this even open? And they were like, yeah, it's just really slow this time of year here in this. It was Lake Las Vegas. It was like this section away from like the strip and everything. And so it's like, but nobody was there. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like a queen. I get to be, served, and I get to have this big meal all alone. There's absolutely so they had time to sit and talk with me. They're sitting and talking with me. It was, that doesn't usually happen if it's busy. They would never talk to me. And so we had a great time. And the other lady, she wanted to be a flight stewardess, and she was deciding if she was going to go to flight school or take some other, I forgot what other class she was going to take that would pay her $1 more an hour, but she wouldn't be happy. And so I said, well,
not worth it.
Tell your daughter. And she said, well, I tell my daughter to do what makes her happy. And I said, well, there's your answer. So she went to the flights. It was that aligned. It was so like beautiful, because we were able to talk, and I was able to help them a little bit, and they gave me the gift of being in the chapter to help whoever needs to hear that. So it was really fun. Yes. And that's the thing about, if you're listening in and you want to work with Carma and get your message out, get a book out there, that's really going to help a lot of people and help in your business, help to share about what you're doing. That really is a big thing. Yes. And can you share about maybe, Carma, can you share about how some of the clients, what they've experienced after they've written a book and how that's helped with their businesses?
This is actually a new direction for me. Okay. So I don't have the client cases yet, but I've done it. I've done it several times. I have 5 books published, so I know I can help.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's so much nicer to have somebody help you with the steps to getting published. It really does make a difference. When I started my book out, and I'm just giving my example, when I started out, I had the book cover in my mind and got that designed, and I started sharing about it, and I had a rough outline, and I started writing it, but it wasn't quite finished. And I ran into a publisher, and he loved the idea and the concept and wanted to work with me. And he's like, okay, well, you've got a book, but you've got a brand. And he took me through more steps than I ever could imagine. And I just needed to give him a rough manuscript to continue the process. And
wow.
And so that magically happened. I was actually volunteering for somebody else and ran into him. They were like, okay, we're going to sit in a circle and share about what we're doing.
That's amazing.
Yes. And so that even if you are going to go the non-traditional route and do a publisher, and I kind of did something in between with working with this person because it's more of a business brand program, but with them, but it really made a difference to have somebody that knows the steps. There's so many secrets and things. There's costs and mistakes that you save. So if you find somebody you can work with that's a reasonable price, that can guide you through the steps, you're going to actually save time and money and mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, because I've been publishing since the early 90s, and my first book is actually probably my most popular because it's about bundt cakes, but it's like an 8.5 by 11. You could tell I made it on Microsoft Word. It's like, I didn't know what I was doing then, and I have learned with every book. So I've learned through the school of hard knocks, but I've also taken training from a lot of people. So what I bring to the table is everything I've learned from experience and from a virtual classroom.
Right.
And I'm taking the best of all those things so that whoever I work with has a better experience than I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal.
Yes, yes, that does make a big difference and very helpful. I can't wait to see. Now, what is your next book going to be about?
Well, the one I'm launching in May is a second edition of an earlier book. I'm doing it for two reasons. It was about home pages, and things have changed, so it needed to be updated. But probably my most personal reason is that it had my ex-married name on it. I just didn't want it on Amazon anymore.
Right.
So I've got another book I'll need to do that too. So I just get rid of that former married name. And then I'm also working on the audiobook version of this book, which was my last book. Whoop, there we go.
Nice.
Public Speaking Superpowers. That was the one that's won 3 awards.
Wow.
So, and I was able to get it to be a Kindle bestseller. It was number 2 in its category, right behind a person who had their own TV show.
Wow.
So I probably couldn't have gotten to number 1 even if I had a lot more people buy. So I felt really good about that.
So that'll be on Audible.
That is my goal. I because of the way the book is, it's not a simple just read it and go. There's a lot of, footnotes, and so I have to create this PDF. Apparently, when you have an Audible book, you can give them also a PDF with all the links.
Right.
So I'm having to go through and create a script and create the PDF at the same time. And it's taking a little bit longer than I thought. I was hoping to launch it for audiobook month last June, but now I'm hoping for this June. We'll see what happens, because I have the other book launching in May, June. That might not work.
Yes, and it's really interesting. My audiobook is selling about 2 to 1, and it tends to be, it's really funny. Now it's catching up and evening out, because people will buy the book or the audio book, and then they'll actually buy the physical book because it has a lot of activities and extras, but I also have all the links. And so people are able to there's lots of free gifts and activities and this and that they can get. And so that's something that is interesting. I had a blast doing the recording. I actually went to Studio City in California. For those who aren't familiar, it's like the place. Went to an award-winning recording studio, and they have this apartment above the studio, and they let me stay for a week. And I recorded 8 hours a day. And it was literally, there's so many, it's like they converted a house into the studio. And it's very common there that they do this in that area. And so everybody else that went in there's 2 different options. So most of the people paid other people to read their books.
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yes. And so I was the only one that was like, oh, wow, you're the author and you're reading your own book. That's different. It's rare, I guess, for them. But
it's wise. It's wise if it's a business book.
Yeah.
Because it lets people get to know you.
Exactly. And I have a show. I'm not shy, obviously. So for me, it was fine. And I wanted it to be in my voice. But I got to hang out with all these people that read all these books out loud every day. And in the evenings, we'd all go out and they'd show me the town, and we had a blast. And so it was kind of like it was work, but it was a mini vacation and a learning. So it's fun when you're writing and creating your first book. You're going to have so much fun in the process. It's almost like getting a PhD and writing a book. It's a whole journey. It's actually,
it definitely is.
It's fun. Don't make it stressed. I mean, I think this is the thing. I had people that were like, you need to do this in a month. And I was like, I don't want to do it in a month. I want it to be, and there are people that have written high quality work in a month. And that's incredible. But I needed to give it the time that I gave it. And I also, for me, this is something for the listeners. If you're writing a book or thinking about writing a book, then don't worry about these times that we're in. There's situations that might show up where you have to pause or put the book on hold for a minute. My book was going to come out in January, and my son passed away, as I mentioned earlier. So I put it on hold. And obviously, just absolutely no way. I was like, sorry guys, it's not happening until I'm ready. And then it came out in August. It still hit the bestseller and all that, and it's not a problem. So just be patient with yourself and know that everything will show up in perfect time as long as you're taking steps in the right direction. Even if you have to put something else on hold, know that you will get there. Listen to your other story. Carma has this beautiful story about her relationship. She put her life on hold for a year in relationship department to heal and get aligned to her own values and goals. And then she found an incredible relationship. So it's the same principle for anything. Even if you have to this year take on a different job that's not your ideal career forever, that's okay, because it's not forever. Yeah. Yes.
Nothing's really forever.
Exactly. Which is
At least not in this world.
Yeah, do the best with what you have with each day, and that makes a huge difference. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up in our conversation, we discussed domestic abuse, and that's something I do have a chapter about getting free from abuse and getting out of abusive situations. Sometimes it's really difficult. Maybe you have children. You feel threatened. You felt threatened. You could have lost your life at some point. Maybe, I mean, you had a serious injury. And so there's something that I like to share a lot, and that's the resource that's called 211. Have you heard of that resource?
I have not.
Okay. So that's something I would say more than 60% of the people that I ask have never heard of 211. And that's important. So if you're listening, even if you never need a resource, this year we've a lot of people who have never needed a resource in their life may need a resource. So share this. 211. If you Google 211 and California or whatever state you're in or province in Canada, you will find a list of resources. That's resources like getting out of a domestic abuse situation, resources for places to go, shelters, resources for if you need food on the table. So food banks, resources for schools that are giving out school programs. Even though the schools are closed, they're giving lunch programs, resources for how to get jobs. There's all kinds of different things. There's mental health resources. Everything you could imagine that's available in your particular state is going to be listed just under 211. You can dial it, or you can Google that in your state or province, and you will get help that you need. And if you share that with someone, share love and kindness, give them what you can. And then if you give them the resource to get the help they need, they can get back on track. Your friends, loved ones, co-workers can get back on track even sooner.
Exactly.
Yes. So that'll make a big difference. And I think that's one of the things. What ideas, Carma, do you have? What kind of businesses could write a book? I think it would be just about anything.
Yeah, pretty much. One of the markets that I am looking forward to working with are family-owned businesses, because they have the dual story of creating the business and creating a family legacy. And I love helping people create legacies. So I think family-owned businesses should all have books, even if the only people who buy them are their loyal customers, because it creates a legacy for the business and the family. Yes. I think any small business owner can improve their business by some form of book, because there's just something about saying, I wrote a book, that just gives you authority in people's eyes. I mean, because most people think that writing a book is hard. And yes, there are aspects that are hard. It's simple. It's relatively easy. It's the mind stuff that makes it hard. Because the writing part isn't necessarily that bad. Even if you're not that good of a writer, you hire an editor, and that's what they do. It's like, so I think any small business owners, family business owners, and then there's this group of people called mid-level executives. They're
Mhm.
not the head of the company, so it's not an obvious for them. But these people are the perfect people to write a book because it can take them in one of two directions, depending on what they want for their career. It can get them into the C-suite
Yes.
because now they've got this leverage that they can create an audience and they can create something that is of additional value to the company they work for.
Mhm.
Or it can make them an entrepreneur, which maybe they've always wanted to do and they just never tried.
Yes.
So
That's
a book can take you anywhere.
Yes, I love that idea because there are a lot of people that have so much knowledge and maybe they're in a job at a company that they're kind of stuck, or perhaps the company has downsized or
Right.
cut back so much, and here they have all these skills, and with a book
Exactly.
you'd be able to share some of those skills, and then that would be able to get them the foot in the door to a new
Exactly.
opportunity, or the leverage to be able to create the preeminence to be able to create their own companies, basically. So
Exactly.
I
And
love
then
that.
there's the hobbyists. I mean, if you are an avid underwater left-handed basket weaver, there are probably lots of other people who also want to do that, but you know how. Write a book.
Yes.
Be the go-to resource. I mean, there are amazing things out there that people will spend money on. I mean, rabbit ownership and hula hooping, and we all carry knowledge in us that somebody else would love to learn. And a
Mm-hmm.
book is probably the easiest way to get it out into the world. You can turn it into an online course. That's very popular right now, and that's a very good way to do it. But that takes some technology.
Yeah.
A book requires a word processing system, period. So I guess a computer to work you need a computer and a word processing system and access to the internet. And that's pretty much it. And you
Mm-hmm.
can write a book.
Yes, that's so true. And now I love to hear now how you're able to help people that are very busy to write a book. What examples can you give of how a very busy person would actually be able to fit a book into their life? How does that
Yeah,
work? How can we do that?
well, it depends on the person. I have like this report I've written that I give clients because it costs money, but I give it to my clients as part of our package that helps them find the time they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the advice you hear is like, wake up an hour early. Well, some of these people are already waking up and they wake up an hour earlier, they're going to be falling asleep all day. So
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't work for everyone. So, I mean, there are the standard wake up early, go to bed late, but there's also things like hire help. Rather than cleaning the house yourself, hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than doing the yard work, hire someone. If you work from home, maybe hire someone to take care of your kids for a couple of hours a day. Hire a babysitter. Or if you know you really want this book, you can give up something just temporarily. Like you always go and get your choca latte, whatever mocha latte thingy bobber, and that takes an hour. Well, give it up for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got an hour. So that's part of it, is finding the time to either find the time that's already there and you're just wasting, or finding the time that you can get other people to help you create. And the other part is getting into the flow, because when you're in the flow, you write faster and are more productive.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
help them find ways to like one way is to have a dedicated space for their
Mm-hmm.
writing. So that every time they sit in that place, their body already says, okay, I'm in the writing place. And you get into that flow moment way faster. If you can't dedicate a desk, then dedicate a basket with all your stuff in it.
Yeah.
Do some form of ritual that, okay, when I do this ritual, I'm about to write. So it's sort of a two-pronged process to find the way that works with them and their personality and their situation and their lifestyle. There are ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now for me, and I'm giving you an example of my life, how the heck did I find time? Because I do have a big team working in Beverly Hills. I work with a bunch of agents. I teach online courses. I run events. I do a whole bunch of stuff. I have 6 kids, 5, 1 passed away, but I have a big life, a bunch of things going on all the time. And I had to say no a lot. Like I said no to going out to parties, and like Beverly Hills is my main residence, and so it's networking parties. It's every day of the week you go out and you have business dinners and outings with friends, and this is very normal and it's great. Now it's changed this year, but anyway. But last year when I wrote my book, it wasn't like that. And I had to say no so much so people stopped asking me out. I was like, they're not anymore. And then, I'd just go to the big events, and I ran some of the big events. So I loved that because I was having fun and I'd get to see everyone and hug everyone. And I'm such a people person. It was